Incoming transmission for Manny at Area 503. Begin download.
Hello out there, everybody. Manny here at Area 503. And I hope you all have been well since our last video.
Hey guys, today I got something just a little bit different to share with you. Check this out. What we're listening to here is an audio recording that was captured on a recorder that was placed outside in the Australian wilderness. The recorder was placed into a plastic sack and hung on a tree, and then left to record whatever it may, and it caught some pretty interesting things. Well, that sounds like an airplane to me, some kind of a jet, perhaps. And a pretty big one that's descending, judging by the sound of that whine. And this sounds like another airplane, but it's some kind of prop plane. Maybe a big transport. But it wasn't just aircraft that were captured on this recording. There was also this amazing rainstorm. And right before the storm, we even got a little bird song. So there was plenty of natural, explainable, and even beautiful phenomenon to experience on this recording. But there was also a few interesting and unexplainable things. Check out this bit. It's pretty interesting. It's just a strange, deep rumble. It does kind of sound like something might just be hovering there. Wait a second, what was that? Okay. That's a pretty strange sound to hear over the Australian wilderness. Heck, that's a strange sound to hear over any wilderness. And when you put it together with the original sound, I can just see a giant ship hovering over the trees, playing a strange sound like in Prometheus. Well, nobody ever accused me of having a bland imagination. Anyhow, that wasn't the only strange thing to be captured on this recording. There was light rain, moderate rain, and heavy rain. There was just over 6 hours of what you would expect to hear in a natural wilderness type environment. Rain, birds, and the occasional airplane. And that was just in this audio file alone. But there was another audio file that had about another 2.5 hours of what I would call mundane, normal wilderness sounds. And before you ask, Manny, did you go and listen to all 8.5 hours of this wilderness recording? Yes, Yes, I did. But at 8.5 hours, that's where things start to get a little bit interesting. Take a listen to this. At first I didn't think much of these strange sounds. I thought they were just big fat raindrops hitting the microphone. Maybe a tree branch with a limb on it had collected enough water that it just needed to dump it off somewhere, and so it dumped it down this way. Or maybe a bird flew by and landed and it was covered in water from the rain and it just all dripped off the bird down onto the recording device. I mean, that's really what this sounded like here. But I had listened to 8.5 hours of this stuff, and I had heard tons of splashes and droplets hit the recorder, and none of them had sounded quite like these ones did. There was something different about these 10 sounds, but I just couldn't figure it out. I really had to study the visual representation of the sound in the form of this sine wave, and listen to it for a few minutes before I could figure out what it was. Then there was two things that I noticed. One, after each one of these 10 strikes, the recorder stopped recording. In all of the other bits of recording, whenever there was enough activity for something to actually strike the recorder, it meant that there was a storm going on, and this generated enough noise to keep the recorder going for quite some time. You see, this recorder was set to record until it didn't pick up anything under a certain decibel level, and then resume recording once it detected a noise that was over a certain decibel threshold. But for some reason, in these 10 strikes, the recording shut off almost immediately after whatever it was impacted the recording device. And here's another strange thing about this series of strikes to the recorder. Not only did they cause the recorder to actually stop recording, but right before that, they sound like they actually overloaded the microphone to the point of nothing. Listen to this when I clean them up a little bit. So yeah, those definitely sound different than any of the other strikes to the recorder. And I've done a great job telling you how they sound different. But unfortunately, I have no idea why they sound different. And in fact, the difference is so subtle that I almost missed it. And if it wasn't for the next part after that, I might not have even gone back to take a second and a third look at that little clip. But listen what happens next after the 10 strange impacts to the recording device. That's right, now it sounds like rain, but there's this weird staticky sound to everything. It's really bizarre, and I can't think that it's a coincidence that this happens right after those 10 strange impacts. The static continues to get worse for another 6 or 7 minutes, and that's when all heck breaks loose. You guys aren't going to believe this, but check this out. What the heck is that? Is it some kind of interference or transmission? I don't know. This thing's pretty dang strange, and it's about to get even stranger. Listen to this. I don't know what that annoying high-pitched sound was, but it continued for about 3.5 minutes. We're just going to go ahead and skip right through that, but I want to play just a little bit more of this recording for you. Check this out. I said earlier that this reminded me of a transmission, and it sort of does because it reminds me of an old computer modem or a fax machine that's trying to communicate on a phone line.
Incoming transmission for Manny at Area 503. Begin download.
I wish. Anyhow, there's just a couple more things that I wanted to point out. For example, do you hear how the loudest part of that signal or feedback seems to fade away, and you can hear more of the rain sounds? But you can still kind of hear that faint, high-pitched whine in the background. What the heck could that be? Is it some sort of an X-ray burst or something from the sun? Could it be just standard cosmic radiation? Is it just a natural phenomenon? I really don't know, but if any of these things were true, why did it seem to appear to start right after those strange strikes to the recording device? That seems too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence. Of course, it could entirely be just a coincidence that all of this activity started right after those 10 strange hits to the recorder. I don't know what was recorded on the audio here, but whatever it was, it seemed to disappear because finally, all of this frenzy of activity seemed to just die down and go away, and we're left with more of the rain sound, albeit some of the staticky rain sound. But things clearly weren't done popping off here in the Australian wild. Because just like when it seemed that things were gonna mellow out and disappear, they ramped up to a whole new level. Check this out. That annoying, high-pitched squeal lasted for an additional 3 hours in this audio file. 3 more in this one. 6 more hours in this audio file, and a full 6 more hours in this one. That gave us a total of 18 hours of this high-pitched squeal. And before you ask, hey Manny, did you listen to all 18 hours of that high-pitched squeal? No, I did not. And you're not going to listen to it either. Instead, let's listen to that beautiful bird song. So, there you got it, folks. Someone takes a digital recorder out into the middle of the Australian wilderness, places it inside of a plastic bag, and staples it to a tree. Then they let it record, and it comes up with this. Several hours of pretty mundane things like birds, rainstorms, and airplanes. But then there's also some unexplainable things, like the Prometheus spaceship. And this strange high-pitched whine that went on for a good 18 hours. What do you think it could be? Is it some sort of malfunction with a recorder? I had considered that, but the witness said that they took the recorder home and it didn't appear damaged at all. In fact, all they needed to do was to add fresh batteries since the ones that were in there had run out, and the recorder functioned perfectly. So, if the recorder wasn't damaged, what else could it be? I suppose it's possible that this is some sort of effect that was caused by the low batteries, that maybe they just misinterpreted the sound and recorded it wrong, but I don't know enough about digital recording technology to make that call. I had asked earlier if this was some sort of a solar X-ray burst, but I really don't think that that's the case either, because it lasted for almost a full day. And that means that the planet rotated away from the sun at some point, and if this was caused by an X-ray burst, you would have expected it to diminish or disappear completely when the planet was in between the sun and the recorder. But it didn't. It stayed steady the whole time. So I think we can rule out any sort of X-ray burst or solar radiation here. And the same goes with it being some sort of a transmission or signal from an alien planet, unfortunately. Because the same thing is true for a signal from an alien species. If this was a broadcast coming from another world, it would have also diminished as the planet rotated in between the signal source and the receiver. However, that does not rule out the possibility that this is a signal that came from a geosynchronous UFO, or a geosynchronous satellite or man-made object. Either way, I think it's obvious that something happened out there in the Australian wilderness. And I really do hope that people start performing more experiments of this type. Plenty of people watch the skies, but not many people go and set up audio capture devices. It sure would be nice to see a pair of them set up in one place at the same time. At the end of the day, I really don't know what it was that was captured on this audio device out in the Australian wilds. But just because I can't explain it doesn't mean I don't appreciate it. And I do appreciate the hours of the nature sounds that I got while listening to all of these audio recordings to make this video. When I said that I'd listened to all 8.5 hours, I had. And in fact, twice I even nodded off in my chair late at night while listening. In fact, I'm probably going to put it on tonight when I go to bed. Anyhow, what do you guys think that was that was captured on the audio recorder? Do you think that it was something alien? Do you think it was something man-made? And if so, what? I'd like to hear what you think down in the comments section down below. Well guys, for now, that's all I got on the strange recording from the Australian outback. I hope you found this story as interesting as I did. I'll catch y'all later.
As always, this has been Manny at Area 503, and I wish you all the best until we meet again. And I am out of here to continue my search for universal truth.
Thank you.